Many years ago, there was a young man named Ekpe, the oldest of 4 children and the only son. Ekpe was 14 years old when his parents passed away. His sister Nko, the eldest daughter, was 12. Igbo was 9, and their youngest sibling Koko Eka was just 7 years old. Ekpe's father, Obong Otop, died when Ekpe was 11 years old. His death left the family confused and struggling. Ekpe was only 11 years old when his father passed away, and he believed his mother would have lived longer if his uncle hadn't treated them so cruelly. His uncle took away everything their father had left for them, leaving them with no means to survive. Little by little, Chief Ita, Ekpe's uncle, took all the land that had belonged to their father. The only land left was the one their house was built on. Ekpe was a kind and generous boy, with big dreams like every other child his age. One day, someone asked him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Without hesitation, he replied, "I want to be a doctor. I want to help the sick in my community, making them healthy and happy again." But little did he know that life had a difficult challenge waiting for him in the near future. Not long after, his family faced a serious crisis. He was still young and didn't know how to handle it. The painful memories of his childhood troubled him deeply. Whenever he thought about how his mother died in his arms because they couldn't afford her medical bill, his anger grew. This experience changed him, turning him from a gentle boy into a bitter young man filled with anger. Their mother, Arit, passed away 3 years after their father died. They were very young at the time, and her death forced them to drop out from school. Life became very hard for them, and his 3 sisters ended up marrying men who were old enough to be their fathers, just to survive. This is the story of Ekpe. Please join me in this African folktale story as we explore the exciting but tragic events of this once promising life. Believe me, there is a lesson to learn in this story. Ekpe was 11 years old when his father died. His mother, Arit, was heartbroken by the sudden loss of her husband. Even so, she was able to get them through elementary school. But everything changed after Obong Otop's unexpected death. The people she trusted the most were the ones who ended up hurting them the most. One day, after Obong Otop had passed away, a new farming season began. As usual, Ekpe went with his mother to the farm. While they were busy clearing the bushes, a loud voice thundered through the air. "Stop working!" the voice shouted. "Stop now, or I'll force you to stop!" Confused, Ekpe, his mother Arit, and the hired workers stopped what they were doing and looked around the thick bushes to see who was talking. Suddenly, Ekpe saw Chief Ita, his father's younger brother. He wasn't alone. 4 strong, angry-looking men were with him, marching towards Ekpe and his mother. The hired workers bravely stood between them, creating a barrier to protect Ekpe and his mother. Without them, things could have been much worse. "Good day, uncle. You seem upset. Is something wrong?" Ekpe asked. "Keep your greetings to yourself. By the way, who's your uncle?" Chief Ita shouted. "Chief, calm down. What's wrong? Who upset you? Why did you follow us to the bush?" "I hope everything is fine," Arit asked. "How can everything be fine? Tell me, how can it be fine when you and your troublesome son don't want peace? I've warned you before, stay away from this land, but you wouldn't listen. What are you doing on my land? Pack your things and leave, or I'll make you leave by force," Chief Ita's voice roared. Arit looked at her son, trying to understand what Chief Ita had just said. Her mind was clouded with confusion, unsure if she had heard him correctly. From the look on her son's face, she could tell he was just as confused. "Is this some kind of joke?" "Chief, what are you talking about?" Arit asked. Chief Ita chuckled, then replied with confidence. "As my father's only surviving son, all his land now belongs to me," he said, beating his chest. "Do you need me to explain further?" he added mockingly. "Chief, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that my late husband's land now belongs to you?" "Exactly. Not just this land, but all the other lands that used to belong to our late father now belong to me. I can see that you're either crazy or blinded by greed." Chief Eater couldn't hold it in any longer. He ordered the thugs he brought along. "What are you waiting for? Didn't I pay you? Flog these people and get them out of my sight right now." But the workers who came to help Arit were ready to fight back. "There's no need for arguments. We will live in peace. But remember this, the chiefs and elders of this village will surely hear about it," Arit said. Ekpi didn't want to leave. He wanted to protest, but his mother held him back. "No, my son, let's go home. This is not the end for us." They say, "He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. Let's leave for now. Tomorrow we will continue the fight," Arit said, gently pulling her son away. Arit reported the matter to the chief and council of elders, hoping to get justice. To her surprise, the council of chief and elders all stood against them. Their judgment favored Chief Eater. Chief Eater celebrated his victory. As a result of that judgment, he went ahead and claimed every landed property that once belonged to his late brother. He left nothing for his wife and the children to live on. After the judgment was pronounced, Arit wept bitterly. "If not for death, would you have done this? I want you to understand that death comes for everyone. One day, your time will come, whether you like it or not. When it's time, it will happen," Arit said, crying bitterly. Some of the elders who refused Chief Eater's bribe expressed their anger and left the meeting in protest. Arit and her children were left with nothing. Chief Eater took everything from them, even the palm plantation her late husband had planted. He claimed it all for himself. To take care of her children, Arit did small jobs every day like weeding farms, clearing bushes and cutting firewood to sell on market days. She worked very hard all the time before going home. Because of all the hard work, Arit became sick. Ekpi had to stop going to school and started working on people's farms. This helped him provide food for his mother and siblings. But since there was no other help, his sisters also had to drop out of school. Arit's sickness got worse each day. The traditional healers charged more than Ekpi could pay. Their relatives abandoned them, and with no help in sight, his mother, Arit, passed away. When his mother died, Ekpi cried and then made a promise. "I will never forgive anyone who caused my mother's death." From that moment on, just seeing them made him extremely angry. Sometimes he even wished he could get rid of them all at once, one cool evening, as he sat outside their small house crying. He didn't notice when Esther, the girl he once loved and cared for deeply, entered their compound. She had come to comfort him after his mother passed away. Ekpi was deep in thought and didn't see Esther standing in front of him. "Good evening," Esther said. She smiled warmly, hoping the man she loved would welcome her kindly, but she wasn't ready for what happened next. Ekpi, startled, then recovered himself. He looked up and saw Esther standing in front of him, his mind racing back and forth. Before now, Esther was his pride, but standing before him, she meant nothing now, beyond a piece of rag. It was Esther's father who announced the elders' decision to give their land to Ekpe's uncle. As Ekpe looked at her, it was like her face changed. He felt as though he was seeing Esther's father, Chief Okon, standing right in front of him. "What do you want from me?" he asked, tears rolling down his face. "My love, don't transfer my father's blame onto—" Before she could complete her sentence, Ekpe pulled a machete from where he was seated, aimed for her head. She screamed and jumped for safety. The machete narrowly grazed her head. She then ran as fast as her legs could carry her. "Your father has finished his own. It is now your turn. Why did you run? You should have waited to see what would happen. Evil people." He sighed as he stormed angrily into the house. As life got tougher for them in the village, one evening he gathered his sisters and said, I want to go to the city. You know my friend Ayo? I'm going to see him. Life is hard in this village. I hope to find a job there. What will happen to us? Who will take care of us? Koko Eka asked. I don't know what it's like where I'm going, so I can't take any of you with me. But I promise I will come back to help all of you when things get better, Ekpe replied. Early the next morning, he went to the city. There, he met his friend Ayo and shared all that had happened to them. Ayo felt sorry for him and said he could stay with him. It was hard for him to find a good job because he had only finished elementary school. So Ayo talked to someone who gave him a motorcycle to ply as a commercial motorcyclist on hire purchase. Ekpe worked hard and quickly paid off his motorcycle, making it his own. After a few months, he saved some money, bought a new motorcycle, and rented out the old one. Because he was dedicated to his business, he was able to buy another bike and then another until he had 5 motorcycles. He rented out 4 of them while he kept one for himself. He decided to go back to the village to visit his sisters. He missed them a lot. Now that he lived in his own apartment, he planned to bring them to the city. There, he could help them learn a skill. As he arrived in the village, feelings of anger and pain from the past filled his heart. Family members who spotted him coming ran to greet him. He was riding one of his new motorbikes. To prevent old anger from coming back, he simply ignored them all. He only shook hands with a few friends who had stood by them during their trying times and had spoken the truth, not minding the consequences. He was excited he was going to see his sisters. He missed them very much and wondered how they had changed. When he entered their yard, he was surprised. Weeds covered the whole area. Where are they? Why does the yard look like this? Ikwo, Inko, Koko Eka, he called. But no one replied. He turned to Enyang, who had come to greet him. Enyang was his childhood friend and former classmate. What happened to my sisters? He asked. I heard that Ikwo and Enko are now living in a town with their husbands, but I don't know about Koko Eka. Really? Are you sure about what you just said? Death? Why? If my parents were alive, my sisters would be in school, Ekpe said sadly. The next day, he went with Enyang to find his sisters. He found out where they each lived with their husbands. He felt very disappointed when he saw that each of them was married to men old enough to be their father. As they returned home, he cleaned up the yard and then sat down to rest. It was very quiet. While he was resting, he thought about getting married. This place is too lonely for just one person, he said softly. Having a wife wouldn't be a bad idea. I don't even have a girlfriend. Maybe I should focus on my life and not think about marriage for now. But I feel lonely, he sighed. His thoughts turned to Esther, but he quickly pushed them away. The more he tried not to think about her, the more her memories came back. Is she married? Where is she now? Even if she isn't married, she wouldn't want to sit near me. Ha! Look at what anger has done. What if I had hurt her that day? Would I be thinking about her now? He said to himself. When Enyang visited him the next morning, he asked, Is Esther still living in this village? I haven't seen her since I got back. Yes, she is. And she's still single. She often asks about you, Enyang replied. Are you joking? I'm serious, Enyang said. Hope and love grew between them again. Enyang helped them reconnect, and soon they were back together. Ekpe returned to the city and stayed for a few weeks to check on his business. Then he went back to the village to see Esther, bringing her many nice gifts. When he reached the village, he sent gifts to Esther through Enyang. Esther was happy when Enyang told her the gifts were from Ekpe. Are all these gifts really for me? She asked. I was told to bring them to you. It seems like you don't want them, Enyang replied. Who says that? I love everything. Tell him I'll come by later this evening, Esther said. That evening, as she promised, Esther went to see Ekpe. He was thrilled to see her, and they shared a warm hug. They talked for a while and expressed how much they missed each other. After some time, Ekpe said, "I know I don't deserve your love because of my past. Will you marry me? I want you to be the mother of our children." She looked into his eyes and said softly, "If this were in the past, I would say no, because you really scared me that night you chased me with a machete. I promised myself I would never see you again. But here I am, sitting next to you and talking to you. Life is strange and full of surprises. I could say no, but I love you, and that's what matters most. I just worry about your anger. Promise me you will control it. God has helped you." "I promise to control my anger," Ekpe replied. "Then I will marry you, my first and only love," Esther said. After they had their usual discussions and overcame some challenges, they happily got married. Esther moved in with Ekpe. 3 months later, Esther became pregnant. Ekpe wanted them to leave the bad memories of the village and move to the city together, but Esther chose to stay in the village, have the baby, and care for the child before joining him in the city. When Esther had her baby, everyone was very happy. Since the baby was a boy, they named him Otop Jr. after his father. One day, as Ekpe came back to the village to see his wife and son, he saw his wife on the porch with 2 men sitting in front of her. As he got closer, he recognized one of them as his brother-in-law, Edet, while the other was Chief Ita, his uncle, the one who had caused trouble for their family. He stood there, speechless, for 5 minutes as memories flooded his mind. What should I do? Should I kill him and end this now? His thoughts raced. His anger returned, taking over him. Slowly, he walked past them and entered the house. His uncle felt uneasy when Ekpe walked by without saying anything. He quickly stood up and hurried away, glancing back from time to time. When he looked back again, he saw Ekpe running towards him with a machete, just barely escaping unharmed. As he came back to the house, he saw his wife and felt anger in his heart. "Why did you let that evil man come into my father's home after everything he did to our family?" he asked. Esther, feeling embarrassed and upset, replied, "Husband, you promised to control your anger. I'm tired of your outbursts. A few years ago, you almost hurt me because of it." When she said this, Ekpe got very angry and thought about choking her right then. "So you have a plan? You worked with my uncle to finish what he started years ago. His cruelty caused my mother's death. He took everything we had. And now, you're talking to me about anger? Where were you when he hurt our family? I don't even know you. How can I be sure this child is mine?" As he leaned over to look at the baby on the bed, he moved quickly like a flash of light. He grabbed the baby by the feet, twisted his face, and without thinking, smashed the baby to the ground. The baby lay still and quiet, his little eyes wide open. Splashes of blood stained the floor. Esther looked in shock. Her baby was on the floor, not breathing. She held her head and cried out loudly, "People of Abodio, where are you? Oh, come and see! Ekpe has killed my son, my baby." After she said this, she collapsed and fell into a coma. The villagers hurried to help, but it was too late. The baby lay in a pool of blood. Everyone tried to save the mother. When Esther woke up, her sister was beside her. "Where is my baby?" she asked. "I carried him for 9 months, gave birth to him, and fed him. He was a sweet child with a beautiful smile. Who took him away from me?" She kept crying, and her sister cried too. Ekpe stood frozen, as if shocked. He didn't say anything. He turned slightly and looked at everyone, confusion swirling in his mind. Suddenly he started to laugh. He laughed and laughed without stopping. Everyone was shocked. The villagers watched, surprised. "Is he laughing after killing his son?" one villager asked. "Tie him up," the youth leader ordered. "After killing your son, you dare to stand before us and laugh. You will not escape punishment." He kept laughing and started talking, pointing his finger as if he was speaking to someone. Everyone was shocked. and didn't know what to think. "Has he lost his mind?" someone asked. "He's just pretending to avoid getting in trouble." As time went on, his situation got worse. Meanwhile, Esther went back to her father's house. The next day, she went to ask the youth leader to let Ekpe go. At first, he didn't want to listen to her, but when he heard about Ekpe's condition, he agreed. When he was freed, Ekpe sat still and kept laughing and talking to people that no one else could see. He got up, as if someone was controlling him, went to his room, took out a bunch of keys and the papers for his motorcycles and threw them in the air. But Esther quickly picked them up and gave them back to him. "Here, don't throw away your papers. I'm still here," she said. He looked at her strangely and then began to dance. He tossed all the documents away again. At that moment, Esther knew this was serious. He had lost his mind. She cried hard, not knowing what to do. In the days that followed, Esther kept crying. Every time she saw him, she felt sorry for him and said, "I forgive you. Please get better for me." This is what anger does. Esther continued to take care of him, taking him to different healers and mental hospitals. After many months, she was told his situation was hopeless. Finally, he was taken back to his hometown in Obodio, where he lived as a part-time madman for the rest of his life. In the city, his friend Ayo kept an eye on the people he gave his motorcycles to on hire purchase, collected the money, and sent it to Esther. Esther did everything she could to help him, but he was too far gone. She had no choice but to move on with her life. When his sisters heard what happened to their brother, they came with their husbands, cried when they saw that he was very sick and could not be helped. They often brought him clothes and food. After 2 years, Chief Ita died in pain. After his death, his children made peace with Ekpe's sisters. They invited the whole family, gathered the villagers, and announced that they would return all the lands their father had taken from Ekpe's father.
Everyone was happy with their decision and thanked them for their kindness. Once more, the family came together. But the sisters said to their cousins, "What good is this land to us now? Our only brother, who was to inherit it, is now insane. Maybe God will help him in the future." The cousins agreed to lease the land to others every year and use the money they earned to take care of him. The end. Anger, the Bible says, stays in the hearts of fools. I believe you're not a fool, so why hold on to anger? We should do everything we can to control our anger. Jesus said, "Be angry, but do not sin." Constant anger is not our friend. Only foolish people let anger take over them. We will improve if we follow the teachings of Paul in our daily lives. Live in peace with everyone and be holy, because without holiness, no one will see the Lord. No matter what happens, God is still in control. The situation is not hopeless. Thank you for watching, and remember, God can still work in his life and in yours. Say no to anger. Miracle no day tire Jesus. Thank you for watching up to this point. Please like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Turn on the notification and share this video with your friends and loved ones. It helps the YouTube algorithm show this video to more viewers. I will also like to have your feedback. Please continue to drop your comments. Watch out for the next video. Bye.